All right, so back here on the 1978 Toyota pickup, and been trying to get the rear end assembled. So that's the housing all painted up. Looks all right in there. This paint's pretty fragile though. I mean, I've just sort of, bumped into it a couple of times. See, there's some chips and things on the yoke. I don't know. Not too bad. I did notice I forgot to paint this panel up underneath here, so that was good that I took the bed off in order to get after that, because I had totally forgot about painting that. I do have a bit of a dent on this fender here. It just bent right where the support ends, which of course it would. So I might, I'm not sure if I just bend that back out or if I'll add another support. We'll see. But getting this in here, not too shabby. I had pirated some hardware for the shocks, and I used those for mounting the rack up front. And so I ended up pirating hardware for the panhard bar in order to get this in place. So this one's long enough, but this one isn't. So I need to get another piece of hardware here in order to get the shock mount in, and then I can put the panhard bar in. So that's not mounted currently. And so, just got the hardware sort of snugged down everywhere. Didn't really get after it too bad. I did try to pay attention to where all my grease fittings were. And so, like, when I'm working on it, I can pump those all full of grease when I'm ready. And so these ones are facing up right here, and then the other ones are facing down. I think where the bed is sitting way up here, and so like I should have no problem getting to those grease fittings on both sides, but we'll see. This one, potentially I'll have to swap this fitting out for like a 90 in order to come and shoot this way, because, bed here, I don't know, we'll see. I'll pump it full, obviously, before I put the bed back on, but, long term, I do want to be able to maintain that. So we'll see if I have to swap that fitting out. I got a boatload of those, so that shouldn't be a problem. Getting the shocks mounted in wasn't too bad. I did have to turn the compression and rebound all the way to the softest setting in order to move those around. Just like the front, they're buried all the way at the bottom. And, I still got quite a lot of a gap in here. I think I'm close to ride height for the rear end. And so I do think it needs to go down a little bit more. And then when the weight of the bed is on it, which isn't a lot of weight, honestly, it'll move down. The other weight that'll be mounted to the bed will be the gas tank. And so there'll be a bit more weight back here for the gas tank, but that's about it. I got to jumping on this a little bit just to kind of get a sense for, is it making any creaking or crunching or nothing? And it's fine, like it does. It's doing suspension things. Obviously, it's a bit squeaky because I don't have grease in anything, but it's doing suspension stuff, which is good. No weird binding or anything, no popping or grinding or nothing. So that seems to be all working okay. So I'll keep moving forward. I got all my parts here to put the axles in. So I got axles in here, hardware, calipers, rotors, everything. So get all that stuff assembled. I was a bit bummed out about this rear end. I don't know why companies do this, but it only has a fill hole right here, and there's no drain on it. I mean, it's brand new. You'd think those pieces of crap would throw a drain hole in there just to make life easier for a guy, but whatever. So I do need to get all that assembled, sealed, and everything, and then I can fill that full of oil and make sure I ain't got no leaks. It's sort of a crappy order of operations, so I gotta, so, you know, with a third member like this, you know, that whole cover comes off, and then the axles just go in, and then they are captured by the housing, so there's no C-clips or anything like that. Versus like, you know, a more traditional rear end where the rear cover would come off, and that's where you could see everything and do whatever you got to do. So in this case, you know, I got to get this third member taken off here and get a bead RTV all the way around the outside of it and snug that down and get that all, you know, sealed up. Then, you know, I can't just throw, fill that full of grease, of oil right away, because if this thing gets to moving around, it's going to get inside of these tubes. And so I got to get all that stuff assembled, sealed, and everything before I'd fill it full of grease. And then that's when I'd know if I got any leaks, which is like, you know, that's lame that you got to fully assemble it before you can even test to make sure that things are leaking. But such is life. So I'll, you know, get that sucker all sealed up and torqued down and curing overnight, and then I'll come in tomorrow and get the final torque applied to that, and then get to assembling these axles. So, all right, thanks. See you in the next one.